So guess what happens? Gabby gets a job and Brian is butthurt about it.
Yeah, because he's like, you're at your job all the time. You never hang out with me.
How could you get a job when I don't have anything to do and I need you to hang out with me? Like, he would make her feel so guilty about...
And he called her coworkers scum, low lives. I can't believe you work with them.
If you're going to be this abusive, toxic person, you've got to isolate your partner from the people who would be speaking truth to them.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm noticing this. Hey, I'm concerned about this. So get her away from Rose. Get her away from any job, which would give her financial independence to get away from you.
Exactly.
And get her out in the woods on a road trip or whatever across the country. And that's exactly what he does.
Yeah.
So in June of 2021, they go to Long Island to see her parents. They said Brian was kind of weird. Nicole gives her some money for gas and emergencies. And she just said it was like the biggest hug she's ever gotten from Gabby. And Gabby was crying a lot and all that kind of stuff. So they take off on their van life journey. And this is something that Gabby wanted to turn into a job. Brian would tell her how stupid it was. It was pointless, all this stuff.
Which I thought was weird because if you're willing to go on this adventure with her.
And actually suggesting and pushing it forward.
Yeah, then why is it all of a sudden stupid? Like, that just didn't make sense to be like... Other than the fact that it was getting her attention, she was putting her time and effort and energy into doing this, and so now it's stupid. Like,
exactly. None of it makes sense. So August 12th, this is 41 days on the road. They get to Moab, Utah. This is the body cam footage when somebody has called 911 and said, "Hey, I saw a guy slapping his girlfriend on the side of the road."
Yeah.
And then they get in the car and they drive away and they're like swerving and they're driving erratically or whatever. So the police are called, they pull them over and they're like, and I think they hit a curb while the police are following them and they're like, whoa, we're in a curb. So they go over to the side of the van. Gabby's in the passenger seat. Brian's in the driver's seat. She is sobbing.
Crying uncontrollably.
And he's like, whoa, what's going on? What are you crying for? And she's like, we've just been fighting a lot today. She's like,
it's been a rough morning. We've been fighting. And she immediately says, it's my fault.
It's my fault. It's my fault. I was distracting him from driving. I'm so sorry. I was distracting him. Okay. I've tried to give a lot of grace to these police officers. I've tried it a lot of different ways. I've prayed about it. I've thought about it. I meditated on it. I took a bath. I'm still pissed.
I am upset with them too.
Yes. 101. 101.
Yeah.
What is she going to do? She's got a mark on her face.
Yeah.
She's got a mark on her arm. See, now I'm hitting. The witness said, I saw him slapping her in the face. And she says, all of this is my fault. And they're like, I mean, she says she's the primary aggressor. So
yeah,
we're gonna jot that down.
I feel like, and like you see in the body cam footage, the one officer is talking to the other two and he's like, I don't care how we play this out. If we press charges or don't, we can separate them for the night. At the end of the day, they're going to do what they're going to do. Now, is he correct that at the end of the day, they are going to do what they're going to do? Absolutely. Yes, he is. Yes. I do think separating them was a good call. They needed to be separated. And obviously, you don't know what's going to happen in the future, however many days from now that this all falls apart. But take one of them to jail. Both of them to jail. Take them.
Had they done that, had they done something else, she may still be alive.
Yeah.
How many of these situations do we have to have?
Yeah. And I'm sure they feel terrible.
Mm-hmm.
The one but you sent them off with both of them with their phones. And you know what I really didn't like? So many things. Mm-hmm. Why the fuck did Brian get to go to the hotel?
He didn't just get to go to any hotel. He went to a hotel that was a domestic violence shelter because he couldn't afford a hotel room for that night. They give Gabby the keys to the van. She is beside herself. She's like, I have so much anxiety. I have OCD. Yeah. Like, I have all this stuff. She's freaking out. They give her the keys and say, go somewhere where you can buy yourself a $4 or $5 shower. I know when my wife is stressed, hysterical women. I'm sorry. I don't go. I'm fucking pissed.
Yeah.
Go take a shower. You'll probably feel better. But we're going to take him to a domestic violence shelter for the night.
Exactly. And I'm sure that they did that because she just kept saying, I was the aggressor, I was the aggressor, I was the aggressor. So I'm going to assume that that's why they didn't send her to the domestic violence shelter, because she is the one who said that she was the aggressor. But we also have the statement from the witness that says they physically saw him assault her.
100%.
So he shouldn't be there either.
And the first thing the officer says when he sees her face, when he gets her away from him, he says, "Did somebody hit you? Because it looks like you've been hit in the face."
Yeah.
And hang on, and what about on your arm? Now, he's got scratches on his face. What the is that indicative of? Defensive. Yeah. What, like, you're trying to get somebody away from you. I cannot.
Yeah.
And also, he was driving 45 and a 25. He was the driver. Are we going to blame that on her too?
Yeah.
Was she pushing his foot down? Like, it really, really upset me.
A lot of things went wrong here. A lot of things went wrong.
And one of the officers, I couldn't tell which one it was because we don't see their faces.
Yeah.
One of them comes over and says, the one witness saw him hitting her. She's got marks all over her face. She's got marks on her body. He has some scratches, but like, whatever. He's like, she does keep saying that she's the aggressor, and he was like, there is just no part of me that thinks that if we let them go back together, that he is going to be a battered man after this. He's bigger than her. He weighs more than her. He's stronger than her.
And they're in a van. Let's just move on.
They do end up, though, meeting up later that night because obviously...
Yeah.
And then they drive.
And that is why I would advocate that one of them should have gone to jail so that there would have been no contact.
Exactly.
Because you've sent them both off with their phones.
Yeah.
Regardless of who the aggressor actually was, if they both have their phones and they both have the ability to communicate, you cannot tell me that the person who is in that neither party in an abusive relationship, whether it's the person who's being manipulated, isn't going to reach out and say, I'm so sorry, this is all my fault. Or that the person who is doing the manipulating is not going to reach out and say, I'm so sorry, I should have taken the blame. I'm sorry I put you in this position, because that's how manipulation works, is that I'm not actually going to take the blame when it matters. But in order to get you back to me, I will say, you know what, this actually was my fault. Yes. I don't deserve
now I realize.
I don't deserve you because you took the fall for me and you shouldn't have had to do that. And I'm so sorry. And I'm going to change it. Blah, 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 blah.
Exactly. And that that's what's going to happen.
Exactly.
And yes, they're technically adults. They're very young.
Yeah.
You knew that she was in danger. You knew she was. You said it on the body cam footage.
Yeah.
That you felt that way.
Well, and she's also repeating to you in the back of the car, I don't want to be separated. I'm so anxious. I don't want to be separated.
Yeah.
Because I believe that she knew if they were separated that it was only going to make it worse for her when they got back together.
Exactly. And your job is to protect and serve.
Exactly. Did they let her call her mom? Because she asked for her phone to call her mom. Did they let her?
I guess because she ended up getting her phone back.
Yeah.
So at some point, I guess.
But I just know, based on how her family treats her, that if she had called her mom upset and been like, I'm in the back of a police car, we got in a fight, this is what happens, I don't for 1 second believe that her mom wouldn't have said, do not move, I'm coming to get you.
Yes. Yeah.
Or I'm buying you a plane ticket, get to where, like, I just don't believe that her mom, if she had been allowed to call her and actually did call her, I don't believe her mom would have done nothing and left her in that situation.
No. And I think that at the point that she did call her mom, I think she probably downplayed the whole situation.
Yeah. Like, she wasn't in that moment now.
He's at a hotel and I'm in the van. I don't know if she knew about the whole police, intervention and all that kind of stuff. I mean, she said, you need to come home. And Gabby was like, no, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fine. And but you're right. I think she exactly would have done that.
But also in that moment, and I'm not blaming her mom at all, in that moment, if I still have to call you to tell you about it, even though I'm downplaying it, like, obviously it was significant.
Yeah.
And Gabby is still an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, can her mom...
Yeah. It's like, I can't force you.
Exactly. You can't force her.
Yeah. It's so sad.
It's just a shitty situation.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's not an uncommon situation.
Yes.
Well, and they say, too, they shifted their search from trying to locate Brian because at this point, if he's on the run, they're like, there's a reason you're on the run, fam, and we can't do anything. We can't charge you with anything unless we have a body. So goal number 1, priority number 1 is we have to find Gabby first. Yeah. Otherwise, it doesn't matter if we find Brian. So they're still looking, but they're like, we got to get her. And at this point,
they know it's a recovery.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other,
yeah,
thing to it. So they do find her body. They know she was last seen on August 27th. She was found on September the 19th. Her body was kind of laying on her side.
Yeah.
And she was like wrapped up in a sweater. They said that
there was like
boots were off next to her body.
And there was like a burn mark
where
it looked like someone had tried to start a fire, but there were no fire starter materials there. There was like no evidence of, obviously there was evidence of a fire because there were burn marks, but there was no like
accelerant or
anything. There was no like actual evidence of an actual fire having actually been there.
So he was trying to do some like that, and it didn't work out
and
for
also,
him. So he
they
just
had
left.
been camping and living out of a van for like so long up to this point. Like, if she's out there in the cold, why would she have taken her boots off? What, like, none of it made sense.
Exactly. None of it made sense. The coroner ends up obviously doing an autopsy, and she died from manual strangulation.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's very obvious.
Yeah.
And obviously they have to notify the family. They do need somebody to identify her body.
Mm-hmm.
And it is just absolutely devastating to watch this family recall.
Oh my God.
Going through this.
And it's the
terrible.
stepdad that's there that does it. And they call him and they say, we have a body. And he says, I need you to be absolutely sure because I'm about to have to call all of these people and tell them. And like, oh my God. It was awful.
It was, just terrible. But then that's when we find out, that they got in that fight at the restaurant, and then they go to the Whole Foods. The van was seen around 6 to 6:30 by the Bethunes, which were the other van life people. 7:15, Gabby sends the last known text to Nicole about being a solo van lifer, which is just, the most dangerous time in a woman's life is when she is leaving. Especially, obviously, an abusive partner. So, like, she just said, I'm going to do this on my own. And I told him that.
And I don't for one second believe that he wasn't going through her phone. So, I'm sure he saw that.
Exactly.
I feel like going through her phone is probably the least of his crimes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time. Around 8:30, she's moving those computer files around. And then after that, there's no more indication that she was alive at that point. Then the next day, Brian decides to hike around, and he's taking all these photos, but he's really focusing on dead animal bones.
Yeah, it's weird.
Super weird. That's when he starts calling his mom. He starts calling his mom. They start talking a lot. There's like flurries of phone calls.
Yeah.
That's when the Laundrie family wires money to a lawyer.
In Wyoming.
$25,000.
That's a lot of money.
And somebody says you would only wire that much money for a lawyer if they are going to represent you for murder. Like,
that's not a
DUI case.
Yeah, that's not something insignificant. That's a lot of money that somebody's going to be spending a lot of time on.
Yeah. He's also sending text to Gabby's phone,
which she's not responding to.
No, not until his phone gets back where she is.
Yeah.
And then they're texting back and forth.
Which, if they're together, why are they texting back and forth? And his messages to her are, hey, I think I'm actually going to stay an extra day. Hey, actually, can you pick me up tomorrow instead of today? Can you pick me up here? Like, it was this whole thing of like, he was going on this little hike without her, but she was supposed to meet up with him. Like, it was bizarre.
Also, do you not realize that they can fucking tell where your phones are, dude?
Yeah. Like, and it looks like, I mean, it's the map. I don't know the scale of the map, but it looks like this is a long ass hike. Like, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so he gets 2 rides though. It takes 2 rides to get him back. So he takes the ride from the couple first, and they're like, he looks like he's hitchhiking, whatever. He's like, can you get me back to wherever? They're like, yeah, sure, we're going. And then they drop him off. Don't think anything about it. And then that's when the other lady picks him up, and she's the one who actually takes him back to the campground.
Yeah.
And she's like, looks like he's been hiking. Like, it looks like he's been out for a couple of days, which in that area near the campground wasn't a red flag.
Exactly.
Like, she was
That's
like, oh, whatever.
Uncommon. Yeah.
But also, why are we picking up hitchhikers, y'all? Stop that.
Was like, Leah, because she's like, she was by herself.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I saw this, dude in his 20s.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Nope,
anyway,
not
so
me.
he gets back and she's like, do you want me to drive you to the campsite? And he's like, no, you can just leave me at the entrance. And she's like, oh, like she says, she makes a joke like, oh, you don't want your fiance to know you got a ride from a girl or whatever. And like, she's like, I was just like joking, whatever. And she says he opens the door before she stops the car. And she's like, dude, like, I'll stop. Hold on. I'm going to stop. Like, you don't have to jump out. But he very obviously did not want her.
No. To get to that area. Yeah. Which she said at the time she didn't think that much of, but like, whatever. Yeah. And then he leaves Wyoming to go back to Florida.
On an airplane, obviously.
Uh-huh. Except he's stopping at gas stations and using both of their debit cards to do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've heard that you have to pay for the gas in the airplane yourself.
That's true. I have heard that, yeah.
I mean, there have to be...
In this economy? Come on.
There have to be airplane gas stations.
It takes a village.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he also... And he's using his card and Gabby's card.
Yeah.
And then he sends himself a Zelle transaction for $700 that says... From Gabby to Brian... Yeah. That says, here you go. Like, I'll never ask you for anything again.
Yeah, goodbye. A little on the nose, don't you think?
A little on the nose. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So now he is a federal fugitive. They're like,
he sure is.
We gonna find you. Dog the bounty hunter shows up.
What a plot twist.
I'm gonna find him, he says.
Yeah,
basically.
He said, I love that he was like, if we even get a scent of a trail, it's over.
He's done. I'm gonna get him.
I was like, get him.
Yeah. He didn't, but...
He did not.
Yeah. But he did have a lot of confidence.
I love the confidence. You know what? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Exactly. So they find Brian's car at a park in Florida.
But they find it because it's been sitting there for days and it finally gets ticketed. And the car is registered to Brian's parents. So somebody finally calls Brian's parents and is like, why is this car sitting here? Come get it. And they're like, oh, well, it's got a ticket on it. We'll come get it. So then they just scurry on over there. They pick up the car and they just drive it back. That is it.
And then it takes however long for the police to find out that has happened. Right? Because they don't tell the police.
No.
They just go get the car.
They're like, well, Brian liked to hike here. Okay, so did he take your car and you didn't know? Because you obviously don't seem to have found it weird or suspicious that your car was just... Number one, missing for enough days to get a ticket.
Or concerning.
He's gone. Like,
because
nothing about that was a red flag.
Right. And
at least to them.
They're saying that Brian's missing. They've already been part of this. We wanted to let you know he was missing. We haven't heard from him. We're worried about him.
Yeah.
Then the car turns up ticketed, having been there for several days. You just go pick it up and don't think anything of it. And they're like, well, we just figured he'd come home. In what fucking car? How the fuck do you think he's going to get there?
Yeah.
You
also,
just took
you
the
know
car
this is
that
a
he
place
drove there.
that he likes to hike. So now you're not concerned that maybe he's injured.
Exactly. Has something happened to him? Like, you just take the car and don't say anything instead of being like, oh my gosh, we found his car here. Like,
yeah, it was okay. Whatever. Anyway, we found the car.
Yeah. So law enforcement is searching this area, but it's 40 square miles. It's two parks that are kind of smushed together to make one big ass park.
Yeah.
There'd been a ton of rain. So the FBI agent Loretta.
Hey girl.
Listen,
I saw some TikToks before we watched this about our girl and they were like, am I a lesbian now?
Yeah.
And I was like, no freaking way. And then she pops up and she starts talking and I was like, all right.
Maybe.
Okay.
I would like to start a petition. I just want to see her in a suit. I just want to see it in a suit.
No, we talked about that trend. Remember?
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know if the world's ready for that.
I might not be.
Listen, girl, don't put on a suit and get on the internet. You're going to ruin so many marriages.
You're going to ruin some lives. Yeah.
If you want to be a homewrecker, you
marriages.
do you.
Yeah. Might make lives better, ruin marriages. We do. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in your
do
marriage.
what feels right. You pray about it. See what your spirit says.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do, tag us in it.
Please
That's all.
Should the TikToks find us? That's all we're saying. But But she did say that there were weeks of rain, so the park had been flooded, and then so the water was waist or chest deep, and so all of these officers are having to wade through this dark-ass, muddy-ass water that you can't see through.
In Florida.
Ew! What is in there? And then
alligators.
Exactly. And the dogs that were like going to try to find sense were getting fucking attacked by alligators. And I'm like, y'all are just walking through.
Also, I don't like that they're putting the dogs in danger.
I know. I was a little upset about that.
I'm not pleased.
I felt like we needed more information. Were they okay?
Exactly.
Do they
were
need
there
stitches?
injuries?
Like, what do we?
I didn't like that. It's okay.
That was happening. But, that's hero work, because if you're just going to put yourself into water that you don't know what is crawling around in there.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But they don't find him. But interestingly, after the rains have receded, Brian's family is like, you know what, we'll help with the search. And wouldn't you know it, they walk directly to his body.
Point blank directly to his body.
Like, literally, they're there for 45 minutes and they're like, oopsie-cadoopsie, we found him.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
This is just where he liked to go. Why didn't you inform law enforcement?
You didn't want to tell anybody that? And also, if the water had been this high this whole time, like, I just have so many questions.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, well, we found his waterproof bag. There's pictures of Gabby in it and a waterproof notebook that has the story of what happened. And actually, it was all an accident. The fuck it was.
The flames on the side of my face.
Oh, my God.
He says she, tripped and fell?
She fell in the creek and she was injured.
But he didn't know what she injured.
Yeah, because she wouldn't tell him.
She couldn't say. She was in that much pain that he had to just end her
life. She asked him to make it stop, and so he did.
Okay. If she wanted it to stop, she would have said, take me to the hospital.
Exactly. Also, they weren't that far from the van, so why didn't you pick her ass up and carry her back? Because if she fell in the creek, she wasn't in the creek when they found her.
No. And the autopsy doesn't show any other injury.
Weird. So weird.
And she was so injured that she asked to be put out of her misery.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I would like to point out that how long was she out in the national park, in the outdoors, a month before they found her? A month before they found her. She wasn't down to just bones. They were able to identify her.
Mm-hmm.
But Brian, listen, I get it. The whole,
climate
there's water,
and all that,
climate. I get it. But to say that he was, after however many weeks, was down to the bone, he wasn't missing as long as she was. That's for sure.
No.
And he's down, but when they say it was down to the bone, they don't say there were markings on his bones that would indicate that wildlife.
Right.
It was just weird bones. I don't know.
I read.
I don't buy it and I don't like it.
Look, I would not put it past. Now, I guess if law enforcement believes that he's dead and these were in fact his remains, then I don't know.
I'm going to assume that somebody DNA tested it.
Yeah. I read or heard somewhere, I did not see it in this unless I missed it, that his uncle was a dentist and that's the person who identified his remains through dental records.
Oh.
Now,
I do recall something about dental records being involved, but I don't know about the uncle. But honestly, at this point with this family, I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah. You would think law enforcement wouldn't allow that to be the only identification, though.
I would think not.
But yeah, I don't know. I thought people were saying that because that started circulating again after this release, and I assume they said that in this documentary, but I did not see it anywhere in here. So at this point, Brian Laundrie's parents have not been charged with any kind of obstruction of justice or anything. They've not caught any charges. Gabby's family did file a wrongful death lawsuit against them, which was settled in court. We don't know the specifics of that, and that's fine. There's none of
But there's
business.
still something ongoing, isn't there? No, not with them. Maybe not.
Not yet, I don't think.
Okay.
They did start the Gabby Petito Foundation to bring more attention and awareness to domestic violence. Loretta says, this is important work, obviously. We found Gabby. But there are still so many people that are not found, that are still missing. And that's why this work is so important. And Gabby's parents backed the bill that would require law enforcement to ask 11 specific questions of an intimate partner that could be hurt or killed to determine, I think, how much danger are we in here. And we get some on-screen text that says, well, and they do talk a little bit about, because obviously one of the big things with this case, I say obviously just because I obviously remember it happening, but one of the things that came out was in that area, there are so many missing and murdered Indigenous women specifically that are still missing that don't get any recognition, anything in the media.
And I love how the documentary called this out, and I love how it is specifically called out her dad. And when I say called out, I don't mean like in a negative way at all. But they bring up, because they say her dad says it on screen, and I feel like they handled this like so beautifully. I feel like her dad handled it so beautifully. He says, at first I kept hearing, well, we only found her because she's white. She's a white woman, and that's what these people get pressed, blah, blah, blah. And he says, that was very offensive to me.
Yeah.
And then do you know what he did? He got on Al Gore's internet.
Oh my gosh.
And he did some Googling.
And that is what Al Gore created the internet for.
Exactly. And he found out that, in fact, white women particularly are proportionally more searched for. I don't want to say advertised, because that doesn't,
right.
That's not the word. But they're covered in the media significantly more than any other race of missing person. And her dad educated himself about this, because the internet's free.
It sure is.
And changed his opinion about that, and was like, you know what? That's not okay.
No, and he advocates
exactly
for missing people of all races, and advocates for those things to have more awareness brought to them.
Exactly.
Did not like the ending on-screen text, I'm going to be honest. We get, on August 19th, 2021, Gabby Petito launched her first van life YouTube channel, or launched it, and published her first and only video. Before her murder, her video had less than 500 views. Today, Gabby's video has over 7 million views.
I didn't like that either.
Okay.
Yeah.
What the Netflix? I did not like that.
I didn't like it either.
Like, good for her. Now that she's dead, she got more views. Are you kidding me?
It seemed yucky.
Surely to God, that's not the way they meant it. But I was like, why does that even matter?
Yeah.
Like, that was weird. In the United States, nearly half of all women will experience intimate partner violence at some point in their lives.
So let's just sit with that for a minute.
Please do. If you or someone you know has experienced domestic abuse, information and resources are available at wannatalkaboutit.com. To date, no criminal charges have been filed against the Laundries. This is when they talk about the settlement in 2024. Yeah. The Laundrie family, through their lawyer, declined to provide a comment. Oh, yeah. Okay. That was the very last thing.
Yeah, I don't like that they're still very much like, talk to our lawyer. Like, as an attorney who's been through law school, I don't do criminal law, but like, I get it, right? Like, I get that there are reasons not to comment, or that you shouldn't comment. Yeah. Like,
watching, you don't talk to anybody unless you have a lawyer.
Don't. But also in this situation, like, your attorney could have helped you put together a statement of some kind.
Yes.
That was more than just talk to our lawyer. No comment. Like, you've been so uncooperative this whole time. For what?
You're spitting in our faces.
I don't. Anyway, that's the story of the laundromats. Ugh.
Yeah.
That's so on brand. I don't like it.
I know. Super on brand for them.
Yuck.
Yucky yuck. So that's it. That's the 3-part series. We meant to talk for less time than this. That's our bad.
We always mean to talk for less time than this.
Oopsie kid oopsies. So let us know. Did you watch it? Did you think it was well made? Did it leave out information you thought it should have in it? Just let us know what you think.
Yeah. And we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.